Morning, everyone. So we are now in round two of the Americas event, and I sit at 18 currently. Got a couple 20s ahead of me. Nothing too scary, to be fair. I'd rather be in the 20 range uh, for pairing purposes. This is where it's actually a lot better players are down here in the 12s. There's a couple pretty hard matchups turn round one with like good players where they didn't spike up. So it's a 6 round event, so I expect it to get sorted out as we go. But you know, if these people keep winning big, and maybe I can win my round big, I could maybe get a nice round three before like Mintz and Keith and Travis and stuff jump back potentially to the top. Like I think Travis is versus Bergie, so yeah, there's still good players keep playing each other down here. So I'm versus Jeremy G. Godenschlag. Um, so I put his list here. We'll talk about it. Obviously, it's Monday, so it's the pregame. I don't know when we're gonna play yet. Um, my list is the same. Obviously, you guys seen it before, but I put it here just so when we talk about it. And then this is Jeremy's list. Two Dukes on Hippogriffs, a typical Druidism Master, um, two core units, Banner the Last Charge, and Knights of the Realm. I mean, he doesn't have a BSB, but that's why he takes three Banners of Disciplines, a small Grail Knight unit, and then two Pegasus Knights units. So three scoring, two good heroes, and then two flying units that I don't hold in super high regard. They're not used very much, at least not in units of not two units and not without a guy that can like they used to be used to like I guess move around the super peg lord. Um, so obviously that's not here. Uh, but yeah, I mean there's the good parts, right? It's super fast, or at least I mean KOE is always fast, but I guess the being able to fly and not being chaffable is super nice. And then both heroes are pretty strong versus me. Um, but yeah, let's look at the map. So this is the map we're doing in circle. We're doing Spoils of War, which is probably advantage for me because he only has three scoring. One of the scoring is three Grail Knights, which could just die in a turn, depending on my magic. So obviously, the first place to go when talking about this is the magic and the just looking at how maybe his heroes match up to maybe my units. I like to look and have an idea beforehand if my units can take his units, and what kind of matchups I should be looking for. So a great example would be how does my chosen lord with Portent do versus his hero. So obviously you can see issues in the beginning would be this one has a 2+ save versus dragon, but also because of Tristan's resolve, he can destroy my burning portent. Um, but then he has a 1-up rollable save, so I'd only have a 3-up save. He had a 3-up rollable versus me. I have a 3-up rollable versus him because he is strength 5. So it's kind of a he has rerolls. I don't have rerolls. He's better in the fight, but he runs the risk of just he has no BSB, and he just runs the risk of he takes my portent away. He does maybe a wound or he whiffs because I'm still toughness 5, high weapon skill, good save, and there's definitely a chance that he just doesn't do any wounds. And if I'm sitting in my warrior unit, I could have 3 reds on him and he's taking a leadership 6 check just to break, automatically. Probably will lose a rank. So yeah, I mean, I'm probably looking at what two ranks and a banner. I'm up 3 res to start, which kind of puts him at a risk. So like, yeah, he can charge in and hold up my unit, but there's always a risk that he just loses and dies to combat res because no rerollable. I mean, losing by 1 is an 8. That's not nothing. So I don't want to fight him, but I'm not like auto dead if he comes to fight me. There's also other ways I can deal with this guy. My lord versus this guy, I have to actually look what that item does. Fortress of Faith, I believe, is reroll all armor saves, right? Fortress of Faith. All to hit to 1 to rules and save rolls of 1. So you only reroll. Okay, so it's a little different than I thought it was. So this guy has a 1-up save versus non-magic and a 3-up versus magic with rerolls. And he can't use his reroll with his ward save. Interesting. So that's always a big deal, right? Because if you hit him, I mean, he'll have a 4+ rerollable versus like strength 6, but he can't use the 5-up ward with it. So it's just like having a slightly improved ward save. Duke, Hippogriff, yeah, Kingslayer. So reroll 1, strength 7, 5 attacks versus my. That guy's pretty good versus my Portent Lord as well. I don't cause fear, so I'm not +1 to be hit. But being strength 7 is pretty good. And he has the Basalt, which is not a auto, by any means, it's not an auto save. Because you just fail 1 or 2, and you're dead, right? So it's, again, like, I don't want him charging my Lord, but it's not 100% like that he one-shots. It's very unlikely that he one-shots me, because he needs 3 4s to hit, rerolling, 1s to wound, so he'll wound all of them, and then I get a 5-up rerollable versus his attacks. So maybe he does 2. If he does 2 wounds, and I get 1 save through. I need 3s and 4s before I get my gluttony up. He just might die to that. So obviously, I don't want either of those necessarily against my Portent Lord, but I don't think it's like the end of the world. I can handle it. And my Portent Lord can beat the rest of the units. Like, he might be able to stand in front of the aspirants and take the charge. The problem there is the combat res, right? He's going to run them 5 wide, most likely. So he'll have 2 ranks to start and a banner and a charge. So he's up 4. I probably only kill 2 to be safe. And so I lose by 2 if I don't take any wounds. The impact hits won't do anything. I might be taking a wound from the attacks. I think they're only offensive 3, maybe? Let's see what their offense is. I gotta check the breakpoints. And there's always spells, so you don't necessarily want to be charged by them. Yeah, they're only offense 3, so they hit me on 5s. They're only strength 5. So it's like a 3 per rollable. He needs 5s and 4s. Yeah, they kind of suck versus my unit. So I don't want to get charged by either of these, but it's not like I can take them if I don't get charged. Like the Pegasus Knights just like lose to my guy, right? They can charge. Sure, they'll have 12 strength 6, 4s, 6s, 3s, 4 rerollable 4, 2, 1. They do like a wound on the average, and then he just kills them. So yeah, it's an interesting game where like these 2 are pretty good versus him, and the rest of the units are kind of like not as good versus him. So I'll be curious how that pans out, at least with the Chosen Lord goes. So what else do we have? So magic is the big thing we've talked about. What am I going to take on my Herald? So I think I'm going to do Veilwalker Fly again. I think that's I've played this matchup a couple times, obviously not with the same exact setups, but in having Breath Corruption is super good versus Bretonnians. Obviously, you're a mobile guy. It's just a great spell, even versus all of them. Yeah, there's toughness 4, but it's good in combat. It's good in non-combat. You can cause panic checks. The one thing about this unit that's kind of interesting is if the Duke isn't around, which it probably will be, but could not be, it's a Leadership 7 Terror check or a Leadership 7 Fear check. Or, it doesn't take Fear. Panic just for killing some models, right? So there's a chance that this unit could just die to, like, something happening near it, right? Even if the guy it's Leadership 10 unrerollable for this unit for panic purposes. These lords don't, yeah. It's not automatic by any means. So the breath weapon's just good. It can almost kill this one-shot this unit. It's good versus the Knights of the Realm. You start doing wounds here and there. I'm still not 100% sure if I will take it, but I believe I will. Fly is just really good too. Being swift stride, being able to move around quickly, not be blocked by anything. Obviously, Strength 6 and Divine feels really good, and there's a moment in me that maybe Strength 6 Divine and Veilwalker is the way to go, because so the reason Veilwalker is obviously, getting wounds off these units is super good. And if you combine, and the thing maybe to go away from Fly is while that spell is super good, I can also take the Metal spell that's decent versus this thing as well, right? Like the Metal spell kills Toxic Breath 3.5, and the Metal spell's 2.75 for obviously a less to cast on the Breath. So the Breath's better, though against these with the higher toughness, the Metal spell's better. Against these, the Breath's better. So I'm gonna take the number 1 spell on my Chariot. I think 100%. I think it's just too good not to, because it could one-shot this unit. It's a couple wounds here or there. I mean, it's a couple wounds from maybe panicking this unit. It's not the worst. It's not great on this guy, but if you have to do it, you have to do it. It just has some, it's just a nice damage spell. This army doesn't have, a million wounds. So even cutting down a couple knights in the unit makes them pretty easy for some of my units to take. And I'll take Glory of Gold. While it sucks versus these two guys, the armor save... the armor save's good, but, they're not that... after the charge, his whole entire... Do that. After the charge, his whole army is, strength 4, except for, the 2 heroes, right? So, as long... if I'm getting charged, I'm probably getting fucked up anyway, whether I have 1-up save or not, or a better save. So, it's one of those things to me where it's well, if you're only strength 4 after the fact, why do I need the armor save? Now, maybe I'll go back on that comment as I think about it more. But I think I'll take Glory of Gold and number 1. Now, there is arguments in my head to take number Molten Copper and just have 2 really good damage spells versus them. And, it's 2 great 3-dice damage spells to try to whittle down the knights. It's strength 5, AP 4 versus his whole army. So he gets a 6-up, 5-up, which is whatever. It's not the greatest, it's not the worst, but it's more hits. I actually don't know which one averages more damage. We can do the math here. So it's 3 and 5, right? Let's just do the math right here. 5 divided by 6 times 5 divided by 6 times 2 divided by 3. And then, nope, that's not how it works. It should just be that. And then it's... Alright, so it actually averages more against the normal knights, but I'm sure if I made this 2 divided by 3, which is to wound the grails on a harder thing, it's a little bit worse versus peg knights. It's better versus the little units, but it's a decent spell, obviously, nonetheless. I'll debate. I don't know if I want that much damage spells. I might take the double damage spells if I didn't go, depending on what my Herald takes, because... So here's the arguments, right? Obviously, the Breath is really good for the casting. For a 5 to cast, the Breath is amazing. Fly is always solid because the Herald can still lock down units on his own. He can hold up the Peg Knights. They're only strength 4. They're going to hit him on 5s. So even with all the attacks they have, they might throw a wound here or there, but he can hold them for other things to come kill him. There are a lot of points. They're almost as many points as he is. So that's something to be said. And hell, he could just win the fight and cause fear. And the fact that he causes fear and half of my army causes fear, or you charge into the Peg Knights, they have a banner, you have charge, you do 2 wounds, they lose by 1, they lose by 2, they're not steadfast. You're already -1 leadership for the fear, and you win by 1. That's a 7, 6 if they're on their own. It's not that hard to break the Peg Knights. They're not steadfast. They don't break steadfast. They can't break the rank of an elder. Hell, they might not even beat the elder. Um, just stuff like that. Just little things. So like that's and the breath weapon's not great, but if you get the metal spell off, it's still rerollable. 3s to wounds or 4s to wounds, and he only gets a 3-up, 6-up. I mean, it's only gonna do maybe a wound or two, but that wound or two could be the difference between him taking a leadership 6 check and you losing combat, right? So there's definitely and he has no chaff, so it's not that good there. So but there's definitely uses for it. I mean, the fact that he doesn't have chaff is really good for me, obviously. Um, Strength 6, it's hard to complain about it, right? AP 1, everything has a ward save in this army. So, you're basically saying, I mean, if you want to do the math on it, let's do the math on that too. Just because it's kind of interesting. It should probably be easier if I did this. Equals 1 divided by 6 equals 2 divided by 6 equals 0.5 equals. It's probably easier if I do this and just. And then we go. So it's this. So this is what he needs to hit. He needs to hit. He basically hits everything on 2s. He wounds. Well, it depends, right? The Peg Knights, he's wounding here. He's wounding here. The save is going to be 4 up, 4 up, 5 up, and then. But now the save would be 5 up, and then it'd be I mean, it's. Damn it! Oh, this should be 0.6. It should be. It's higher than this. It's like 0.8. What's the chance of making a? You have to make it twice. So I have to make a 1/3, 1/3. It's 8 divided by 9. Yeah. So equal product. So I mean, it over doubles his wound output now, but that's the thing. It's only 1 more wound on average. Is that significant? It's 1.5. 1 point something. So is that so much better? And sure, this spell's pretty good. It's not as damaging, but you get Rod off on a 15-man Night Aspirant unit, and all of a sudden they're 2 offense, and they hit your parry units, your parry knights or warriors on 5s, or you're hitting them on 2s with your elder, for example, or you get it off on a Peg Knight unit, and all of a sudden they're 3 offense, 3 defense. You're hitting them on 3s with a lot of things, and they're hitting you worse. Or you get off on the hero, just he hits you worse, period. And now you're, if I think I'm gonna fight the hippos, so he's gonna get rerolls in the challenge anyway. So this is what you have to do. You say, all right, versus these units, it's slightly better to have obviously. And against the normal knights, it's like double wound. So it's like an extra wound if you go strength 6. Sure, great. If you're going to fight the heroes, you probably don't want to fight this one. Well, the thing is, he gets reroll 1s. You have how do you do versus? You're going to hit him on your offense 9. He's defense 6, right? Defense 6. Duke's 6. You gas 1 spell. You not rot off once, and all of a sudden you're hitting on 2s. And he's hitting you on 5s, 4s because of the thing, but he still has 5 attack, strength 6, 7. So he needs. How do you do versus him though? You hit him on 2s. You wound him on 3s. So if you put this up here, he only has a 2-up save. So it becomes. Well, I could do it the other way. You do 2 wounds to him, and he does, I don't know how many to you. Maybe 1 with the save, because 5, 2.5. He does 1 or so. So it's even. It's close. It's not the greatest fight that you really love, but it's not unbeatable either. Sure, you're better against the other units, but are you that much better that you take it? And I mean, he's really good versus this one. Because this one has a 6-up save versus him, so if you want to do the math on that one, he goes like this into not even that. It's this into this, so it's 2.4 wounds. But there's always that do you want to fight him? He can fight that one He's not that good versus it anyway. He's okay versus it anyway because he's gonna get. The guy only has a 5-up save, right? So it's 2 up, 5 up, 6 up, because it would be. It'd be that, and it'd be this into this into this. He'd only hit on 2, so it's a lot worse. Okay, so he's not that good unless he has the strength 6 thing. Interesting. Now you can go breath and fly, and then you have the kind of the best of both worlds. You're quick, you can get around, and you can try to fuck up his heroes if you get the charge. It's riskier, obviously, to go in with. I mean, I think, yeah, it's risky. If you're gonna fight the heroes, you have to go strength 6. But the other way to say is, all right, breath isn't that good versus this guy. Neither is any of your spells really. Except if you take Veilwalker, and now your strengths, and now you can cast your big boy spells at him, right? So you can Veilwalker Grave Calls at him, and he doesn't. I mean, he can threaten you a little bit, but if you can get around him with Fly or something, I mean, he has to eat it, right? Like he doesn't have to eat it. Sorry. With the way this magic is set up, you could easily, if you do Breath and Grave Calls, every turn you could be getting a Breath, potentially a Grave Calls, and potentially a, whatever it's called, the metal spell, right? So it kind of gets to this point of, what's he gonna stop? And if you ever feel the need to 5 dice a Grave Calls against one of the hippos, like if you can trade your models, it's pretty good. Now he has healing with the Druidism, but it actually is like it's 12-inch range on the hero. Like, if the heroes are going to be going out there and doing shit, he might not be in range, because that realm unit might just be zerged by... like, if I put Fast Cav in front, if I block the realm unit, and then he tries to fly off his lord somewhere, like, he's not going to be able to heal it. And there's spells and stuff, and there's other healing spells. But now, I feel like I need Veilwalker, because I feel like it just does so much. Like, just take this guy, for example, right? He has a 3-up save versus magic. So he's only at a 3+. It's rerollable. But he can't use the reroll. He's not going to use the reroll if he's getting hit by Grave Calls. So you're talking a 6+ save and a 5+ ward save. And you need a 3+ to wound. Rerollable, right? So, I shouldn't have deleted all those numbers. So, this whole product thing... We're going to have 7 attacks on average. This is just average, just to do fun. We're going to wound 8/9 of the time, right? Because what's the chance of rolling a 3+ rerollable? The chance of failing it's rolling a 3, it's 8/9. Let's just accept that it's 8/9. Goes 8 divided by 9, right? And then he gets a 6-up save and a ward save, right? So you do, like, the chance of one-shotting this dude is pretty fucking high, like, with Grave Calls, with Veilwalker. Like, it's no joke to hit him with it. And if he takes 3 wounds, he can only do so much afterwards, right? And if you one-shot that guy, then you have a pretty good fight versus other people as well. So to me, I can't see why I wouldn't take Grave Calls. It just seems too good versus this army. For the 2 hippos. I mean, the other guy rerolls 1s, right? So his save, he has a 2-up, so it becomes 5-up, and he gets a reroll. It's not perfect. This is not perfect. He would get a little slight reroll here, so on 1s, he rerolls the 1s. So maybe it goes up to like 0.7 something. We'll just say this for shits. I mean, you're still averaging potentially 3 wounds if you get close to him and get the rerolls off. So it's a threat. Like, he has to stop it. And if you're getting breath weapons off and the metal spell off, it helps a lot. And maybe then you take Mark for Doom, and just in case you ever want to do it to the lords. But I don't like that spell as much. But your option would be Hellfire, which is completely bad versus army, I think. I mean, 2-up saves with the 5-up ward, and yeah, you can make him reroll armor saves. It's just not good enough, in my opinion. And then Comet's probably not worth it, given that 4 units fly and the other 3 units are small and probably die. So you're probably taking Mark for Doom, but, if there's ever a turn you need to Grave Calls, Mark for Doom, maybe the Dukes have 1 wound left, you just do it. It's a threat. I think I've talked myself out of Strength 6. While it sounds really good on paper, I don't think I want to be fighting the Hippo Dukes with my character because it's a little risky both ways, and I'd rather just try to get him early, try to bomb him early with spells because I can like right. He has nothing to kill my Herald if I don't fight him. Right? Okay, he has the stupid spell from Druidism, but that's not going to be my like downfall, right? Most likely. So even though there is a lot of terrain on the board. But that being said, there's a lot of rooms to dance around with a lord and stuff. Anyways, I'm probably going to take Veilwalker. I'm sorry I spent 25 minutes talking about spells and stuff, but it's super important to know the matchups and what like that. So let's just go to the board and see what we see. So, when I talk about my spells and my hero matchups, you kind of get away from the fact that the rest of the army is there, right? I have a lot of units, and I have a lot of units that fight. Even my chariot here. So spell-wise, let's just get rid of everything. We know what spells I have. We know that I'm going to take a more offensive magic approach and just try to ping damage here and there, right? Just try to do some wounds to him. In the battle of sitting around, I win, right? If I sit back and just magic him, I will win the game. I will do more damage than his fucking one spell will do, right? His D6 strength 4, D6 strength 5. So that battle I win if that's the case. So he has to do something to kind of try to kill me. And now let's look at the scenario. So it's encircle, and it's spoils. I think I have the advantage in spoils because he has 3 units. I have 4 units that are scoring. And not only that, but I think my scoring units are better than his, right? So, like, the 3 Grail Knights probably don't beat any of my... I mean, they can beat my unit. Like, they could break this. They could possibly break this on the charge because they have 6 strength 6. But they're like one spell from just being useless or dead, right? Literally, one, the metal spell can kill all of them in one go, and it's not even that unlikely, right? It's probably like 30% chance or something. It's probably less than that, 60. Yeah, it's probably around 30 to 25. So enough that, if there's one left, unless he regrowths it, it's going to sit there and do nothing, right? It could die in 2 turns. And once he's down to 2 scoring, then it becomes a fight for the other ones, right? And it's not like any of his units are that great at blowing through the Forsworn in one go. It's 9 wounds with parry. The heroes can't do it. Almost impossible for the heroes to do it. Well, they have just enough attacks to do it, so they're not going to do it. I mean, he'd need god rolls to get through them with the heroes. The Grails don't have enough attacks unless they hit wound every single thing, and I still get a 3-up save, 5-up save worst case versus the Grails. The impact hits ones, are they AP 1 or are they AP 0? I think they're AP 1. They might actually be AP 0. We should look that up. It's AP 1. Okay, so the last charge banner could do it. They're probably the ones that have the best shot, only because they have so many attacks. I'd have to do the math on it. I think they can get through them. 9 wounds is still a lot of wounds. I mean, they only wound on 3s. They hit on 4s. I have a 4-up save versus them. I don't even know, man. They might actually not even get through it. How do the impact hits work? X equals the number of full ranks. So if they have 2 full ranks, they get 3 each. So it's 15. I'm going to save 5. They're only get 5 through the saves. They do 2.5. So 2.5 there. We'll say 3. 1 dead. 5. They only fight. They do fight. Do they fight in 3 ranks? I forget if they're gonna fight in 3 ranks or not. How does the do they have it normally? Let me just look. I don't even know how it works. So they have lance formation. Okay, so they fight in 3 ranks no matter what. So they get 20 attacks. 10 hit. I only have 9 wounds. 10 hits. If I did get saves, it'd be 5, and then they have 2/3. Yeah, I mean they average. They don't average killing him in one. They can, They 100% can blow through the Forsworn in one round, but that's dicey. Man, that's dicey. And that's an interesting thing, right? So if the Forsworn go in front of them, and you're like, all right, if you don't blow through me, you're going to get charged. I mean, the minute they get touched by another one of my units, they're dead, potentially, right? Maybe they can hold on with toughness or something. I at least have binding scroll. But like, if they get hit by 10 Lust warriors, I am significantly better in combat than he is after the charge, right? He needs 4s and 5s with a 3-up save, and I hit him back. The horses might actually tilt the math on the Forsworn. It's like, it's super close. It's super close. It's probably a risk I'd be willing to take. That being said, he only has the 2 units, the 3 scoring units, right? And one of my scoring units is a giant block of warriors. So it's like this dance of, you know, he when you look at the board, right, it's an interesting way it's laid out. So which side would you want? You know, you can start really close to these things. It's kind of hard to get this one. I think it's hard. I think it's almost a game of like, you're potentially giving up one of the sides. Like, if you're on this side of the board, if you take bottom, and you can get kind of like, do you go this way? Or do you take the big flank center, right? There's always things to say. But you kind of have this weird like area here that you can fight on. You know, do you fight kind of like on this angle and say, okay, well, I'm going to go for this one and kind of like defend here, because he can bring a lance down this way, but you're kind of like, you can maybe railroad him in there. I don't know. I have to do some more math on how like elders do getting charged by the flyers. I don't know, like, can he spread out enough to defend this one and get this one? I mean, if he sends like 3 grails at this, right? Even the herald just walking by himself, maybe with other things, can help prevent it. So I think the idea is go for 2 of them, like on my own ideas, go for 2 of them, and you know, at least have like an elder sitting here to like go after that. Because if I spread him out, like I'm much better spread out, right? Every time his guys are farther from his characters, the better for me. Better from his is far from his magic, far from his characters. His damsel basically has to go in the one unit of, he has like 2 choices, or else he's gonna die if he's not in there. And that's another reason Take Grave Calls, because I have the ability, if his damsel ever steps out, I'm like, all right, well, I'm coming after your damsel with my spell now. And if the damsel dies, then it's pretty hard from there, right? But I have a lot of units that can, like, I mean, this fucking guy, right? If this guy charges a peg unit, they might just lose to him. They may just lose and break to him. Because he's straight, I mean, they have a 1-up save versus him. This guy can hold any one of his units up for at least a turn or 2. If not break them, because they don't, that's the biggest thing. He has Banner Discipline. He can, the terror checks and the panic checks he's pretty good from, but the minute you have to take a break check and you're not fucking steadfast, or you're not rerollable, that's the part where it just gets problematic. Where it's just, you can all you gotta do is force a check. And none of his units are immune to fear. So like this unit, like if any one of these 4 are touching you, which are some of my main combat units, you're -1 leadership 8 best with your general. And there's 2 of all his flying units. That's the problem with the Peg Knights, in my opinion, right? Even the fear check they have to take is an unrerollable 8 at best. By themselves, an unrollable 7 fear. And if you whiff it on the turn by yourself, it could be devastating, right? So yeah, there's a lot of, the Peg Knights hit this guy on 5s naturally, right? Even if they get their 12 attacks on him. They're only going to hit 12 attacks. They hit 4. They wound, their strength 6, so they wound on, they do like a wound in that point, wound on average or so. If it means that I hold you and then kill you with the rest of my fucking army, then it's not so good, is it? I'm not saying I want to get charged by him. We're the same, I think, 9 or 8. we might be the same speed. Which in case it's a dice kind of shit. If they're 8, so yeah. So there's some interesting things there where we're the same speed at that point. Discipline 8, defense 4. I get rerolls with this. I mean, sure, coming into the big guy, if you can get all of them in, I think I can. Yeah, there's no reason you can't force clips with just because they fly, right? Is there anything weird they can do? I mean, the 5-man unit doesn't even have. I keep acting like the units are full ranks. Are they 2? They're 2 wounds each, right? They gotta be. Yeah. So I mean, they only have 12 wounds in the whole thing. Yeah, you can still force clips, right? Like if the peg, I mean, they can fly over you at this point, so you're not really fucking them up. But if you do something like this, and just because they fly, they can't go over you. Actually, they don't count as flying for you, right? They don't ignore you anymore. So, I don't know. I think the best you can do, I think you can make it so only one hits you with 40 millimeter. So, right? I think that's possible. So if you're here, that's definitely a front. I mean, you can't block them anyway, right? You can't block them from charging something behind you. So only thing you can really do is make it so it's like super difficult for them to hit you and be good against you. They get 2 in. I mean, what happens if they get all of them in? Let's just say the 10-man unit, the one with only 10 attacks, right? I mean, I've just assumed you've made your fear check at this point, or else you're pretty fucked, right? I took a wound. I get hatred. I did 2 wounds. I took a wound. He charged banner. I'll take a steadfast check, I guess. The minute I pass, he's fucked, right? The minute I pass, he's probably dead. And it's like I said, it's a 700-point unit. I mean, you can trade things in this game, right? I can put this unit here and say, charge me, and say, all right, if you fail, if I hold you, I'm going to charge you with something else, or I'm just going to, it doesn't matter anyway. Man, this video's getting long. I'm getting more confident. I mean, there's things he can do. I don't know how he's going to play it. There's still good flying units. There's still riskiness involved in everything as far as, I do have he has 0 chaff, which is good for me, obviously, because he can't block my shit. I mean, he only blocked my shit with his shit. So, sure, maybe he puts the Duke in front of something, but I don't know. The Dukes aren't like that special versus my monsters. I mean, monsters are still strength 6 versus him. Toughness 6. One of them's only strength 5. The other one's strength 6 versus my big guys. I still get hatred. I can still pop wounds. And if he just... I mean, like I said, if the Duke loses by 1 to the big guy, the Feldrake, it's leadership 8. That's all you got. You fail it, you run, you die. Fuck, man. Right? Or I just don't charge you and then I try to bomb a Grave Calls at you, right? Oh, no, I only did 4. No, 4. Rollable. I'm killing the one with the 6-up save. I did 3 wounds to him. And then he has to run and hide, right? Sometimes I just roll spells just to... You can do the math. I have a thing that can do all the math. Like, I just killed him. I'm curious. I might have to check what the actual math on killing that guy is with a one-shot Grave Calls. It's probably like 40%. But yeah, what else? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I have the tools I need. I mean, we'll see. You never know. I mean, the army doesn't have like a million surprises in it, right? It's some flying units. The heroes, I mean, if the heroes are very good versus me, so that's always a threat. The units are whatever versus me. I mean, I think point for point, my units are better than the Peg Knights. They can't be chaffed, but I think one advantage of just being like fast enough to like contest them, right? So, they can't get charged by most of my stuff. It just creates issues. I don't know. I don't like the no BSB thing. Is whatever. Scenario will probably advantage to me a little bit. Who knows? Maybe he just lets me get one, tries to get one, and then fights off the middle one and says, all right, I'm going to try to win or tie it. I do think Veil Walker is good, especially on this map. If I had to pick sides, I kind of think you have to pick top side in this map. I think it's too good not to because of the hill. I think the hill's in a great spot to defend down here, and then I think the runes can be annoying for somebody depending on their army if they want to go up to this one. At the same time, you know, having, and you could pick if you're big center or not. Let's just look what they look like real quick. So it would be this. If you were top side, which side would I want? So let's assume that you're going to pick top side because it's just better because of the hill. I think the hill is a really big advantage, whether you're trying to hide things behind it or just as a place to start. You can't start on the hill with either army, so that's something. But you can always get behind it. Yeah, the hill is just outside of 18, it looks like, or your other one. Right? Because if this was, yeah, the hills, you can't get on the hill turn 1. Which is, I mean, that's something to be said. But if you give your opponent, I think you have to take top side because if your opponent drops all for first and he can move up on the hill turn 1, that seems like it sucks for you as the other player. And then it's a matter of, so if I'm going to pick side, I want top. And I guess against Bretonnians, it's a little bit better because he doesn't have to pray, but he should pray versus my army. I had a guy not do it. So he pretty much has to pray. So he could take the 50-50 if he wanted to drop off at first, but more likely he doesn't have that many units. So like if you want to go back and forth with him, you can because you have like dogs and fast cav, and even an elder can easily go on the side and just say, all right, let's see where you're going to put your stuff first. See where your scoring starts to go or the peg knights start to go. I mean, because an elder sitting on this hill, right? It can zone a lot of shit where it's like you can't put anything there, potentially. I don't know. I'd want topside with. You could make the argument that big flanks is good because you start closer to the 2 on the side, but I don't know if you're going to, in this particular matchup, like fight on both flanks. Like I probably will put units on both sides, but maybe he wouldn't. So maybe it's better. I don't know. I'll have to think about that more. I don't have a great sense of it right now. Obviously, I'll do more thinking about the matchup outside of this video. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. I do feel like my army's pretty good against, though. I think there's some things to exploit with no BSB, obviously. There's terror checks on his. I have 2 terror causers. There's terror checks on the aspirant units. There's that's the one that could really fail. There's fear checks on 3 of his units on the pegs and the realm units. The aspirants don't take fear, so there's obviously no BSB, so that's a lot of checks potentially. Veilwalker Grave Calls is always a deadly spell versus the hippos. It can almost one-shot them. And, if the hippos are dead, I don't think the army can handle most of my stuff. I mean, I got to be careful. I can't just get charged willy-nilly and then have, toughness 6 or 7 peg knights fighting an elder. But at the same time, if he doesn't kill the elder, right, I'm steadfast. He doesn't break it. I think not having a lot of ranks could be an issue because he just can't break a lot of my steadfast easily. But hey, here's hoping. I mean, my dogs can block 3 units. Everything else can just jump around. So maybe we'll see if I can catch anything. But yeah, anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening.